That's right, this is the 13th Wolfman. This is another top 5 list. This is going to be a little bit different, much like before. It's still going to be somewhat horror, but it's going to be old school horror. Yeah, we're going to jump back in the Wayback Machine. You know, we're going to go back to the 1950s. Back to what I call atomic age sci-fi and horror. Now, these were the movies that, you know, they made because the world was scared of the nuclear fission. You know, they were scared of the atomic bomb. They weren't sure what was going to happen when, you know, it's like every house is going to be nuclear reacted, you know, and they weren't quite sure. It was the dream of the future, but it just didn't happen. So they put out these, you know, Hollywood put out these movies because they knew the world, well, at least they knew that a lot of people had a slight fear for the nuclear presence, I guess is what you would say. You know? And these are the movies that they did. So I'm going to choose my top 5 atomic age. Now, in order for me atomic age, it's got to be from the 1950s. This is one rule I am setting, guys. You know, it's got to be that. Okay? I mean, I usually don't set rules, but since we're going with a specific era, I'm going to set that one. Let's see what you guys can come up with, okay? So, top 5 atomic age sci-fi films. The first one is The Thing from Another World. Directed by Howard Hawks, had James Arness in it. It was made in the 80s as The Thing by John Carpenter. This has got to be one of the coolest atomic age sci-fi films. Again, it's atomic age because it came out in the 1950s. Alright. Number 4. The Deadly Mantis. Deadly Mantis was another cool... There were a lot of giant bug movies, and 2 of them are going to make this list. So, well, okay, yeah, two giant bug movies and then something else. So yeah. So, The Deadly Mantis was made in the 1950s, and it was about this, basically the same thing as what happened in The Thing happened in Deadly Mantis. They were up in the ice, they're digging around, they find this giant thing, you know, they weren't quite sure what it was, frozen in ice, they thaw it out, and it just so happens that, hey, it wasn't frozen or dead, it was just sleeping for the last billion years or a million years or whatever it was, and it was a giant deadly giant praying mantis, you know. So we got to get the army out, we got to get the National Guard to come out, hell save us, you know. I said, we'll do it, you know, it's the Superman motif, you know. So that's number 4. Number 3, I would have to go with, oh man, how can I do that? The Blob. I almost blanked on this. I mean, The Blob. Steve McQueen. If you notice, Steve McQueen pops up a lot. Yeah, Steve McQueen in a movie about a giant gelatin goo that, you know, came from outer space in a meteor. If you haven't seen the movie, you know, the meteor breaks open, the goo gets on a person, and then the little gelatin thing grows bigger. Every time it eats something, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. When finally, by the end of the movie, it's as big as, that's right, a diner. You know, one of those old, you know, trailer-looking diners. So that's number 3. Number 2, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Ray Harryhausen. This is a cool film. See, it's a giant monster movie, but it's not a giant bug movie. That was the one I was. So, you know, this beast comes up from 20,000 fathoms, and it's like a giant dinosaur. You know, they don't know what to do with it. Much like Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. You know, I mean, they weren't quite sure what to do with it. They just, hey, let's let a dinosaur loose on the public, and let's see if the military can do anything about it. And it's a really cool film to check out if you're not really into these, you know, atomic age sci-fi horror films. It'd be a cool thing to do, just to check them out, see what they had going for them, because back then you might get to see some actors that later went on to become people, like Lee Van Cleef. Lee Van Cleef was in the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. He was one of the SWAT guys, you know. Clint Eastwood is in Tarantula. Zsa Zsa Gabor is in Devil Girl from Mars. You know, so these are just things worth checking out just because they might be fun to watch and see where someone started out. And I already mentioned the movie I was going to say was number one, and that is Tarantula. I love this movie. I think this has got to be one of my all-time favorite. Well, it is. It's at number one on my list. It is my all-time favorite atomic age sci-fi film. I mean, there's other ones. There's Them. There's, you know, the giant killer shrews, the giant Gila monster. You know, the giant Gila monster is actually a pretty good film. The Black Scorpion. These are all other good movies, but Tarantula has Leo G. Carroll, John Agar. Clint Eastwood gets a very small role in it as a fighter pilot that's going to help kill the tarantula. It's all in good fun, man. 1955, this was it. This was the movie that everyone wanted. Well, I don't know if everyone wanted to see it, but the ones that went to see Atomic Age Sci-Fi at the time, it did really good. So that's my list. Again, I welcome them all. Comments, video responses. I want to hear what you have to say. This is the 13th Wolfman. I'm on the prowl.